Hello, this is cybersecurity expert Reginald Andre with Arc Solvers, a cybersecurity company in Miami, Florida, in the United States. And today we have some breaking news about a huge cyber attack, specifically the Colonial Pipeline company, where on Friday afternoon, early Saturday morning, they announced that they had been ransom attacked. For those of you that don't know, Colonial Pipeline is actually one of the biggest oil refineries and transportation companies in the United States. They account for 45% of the East Coast fuel supply. So we're talking everything from jet fuel to the fuel that you use in your car. So think of the oil is coming from Texas, and now you have states such as New York, New Jersey, Tennessee, all of these companies, all of these states rely on this pipeline of about 5,500 miles of pipeline in order to get their fuel. So essentially what happened is the Colonial company, they got a ransomware attack. And a ransomware attack in very plain English is when a computer data is no longer accessible by the user or by the company. When they try to open up a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe even a specific program that they're trying to use, nothing happens. It just comes up and it has a message that says your data has been ransomware. And what the ransomware group wants to do is they want you to then pay them. And a company like this, and as important as this, they're going after millions and millions of dollars. And what is supposed to happen is that when the ransomware is paid, then they provide a special password so that when the person goes back to their computer and tries to open up the files, their Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, etc., it's going to be operable. So that's very simplistic of how ransomware works. So in this case, you have what I would call is one of the biggest cyber attacks that's going to be affecting you, the consumer, because what the Colonial Pipeline company had to do was essentially shut down their system. Because when when you detect ransomware on your computers and on your network and on your systems, one of the things that you should do is to disconnect your computers, to power off your computers, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to spread that, let it spread, kind of like a virus. Once you know that the virus is in a certain area, you want to be able to contain it. So it's the same concept. And then the next step that you want to do when you do have something like that is to call your cybersecurity insurance, because they have the personnel, they have the techniques, and they know what to do in the next steps, and they can help you on what to do on the next steps whenever you have a ransomware. So in this case, Colonial had to do what they had to do, which is to shut down their networks. But the only problem is when they shut down the networks, they're essentially stopping the flow of the oil. They're stopping the flow from going from Texas to all of these eastern states. And because of that, the Biden administration had to do an emergency order where he allowed other states to provide oil to these states, more states on the West Coast. There's also some laws about how long truckers are allowed to drive, how when they're going back and forth, because they, obviously you don't want a trucker driving and he's going to be super tired. So he also relaxed those rules, and he also allowed more pumping at other locations. So that way, because of this Colonial Pipeline, they're not operating fully anymore. He's allowing other pipelines to help out. So what does this mean now? What's going to happen? Well, we don't really know, because right now experts are saying that that they're still in the thick of things. They're still trying to see and contain this virus. So what that can mean to you as the consumer is that there most likely will be a gas shortage, because again, they're providing 45% of the gas. So this is certainly not supposed to be a scare tactic or a video sponsored by your local gas station, but I would definitely say fill up because if I would say if this was not be fixed by Tuesday, Wednesday, the latest, absolutely there's going to be gas shortages. Absolutely, prices are going to go up because gas obviously is a lifeline. Everything we do requires some type of gas for energy, etc. So definitely make sure that you're prepared for that, especially if your business requires that type of service. If you have a trucking company or manufacturing business and you're relying on gasoline, you're definitely going to want to stock up and fill up. So how can something like this happen? How could a ransomware group be able to shut down one of America's lifeline, which is the gasoline? And I'm going to take some time to explain that. So the first thing is that this is by a group not in the United States, because obviously if something like this was in the United States, you would have the FBI and other agencies all over it. So typically this happens in countries where the United States has no friendly relationships. So usually this is like Russia, China, North Korea. Now, of course, North Korea, China, Russia, they're not going to say, oh, yes, it was us, because obviously they're not going to admit that. But what is usually the case is that they're people within the countries, and those governments know who they are, and they're essentially allowing it to happen because obviously if the United States can be hurt in any way, they're going to do that. But by allowing someone else to do it and not the actual government, it's kind of like more hands off and says like, hey, we didn't have anything to do with this. We'll investigate if you think it's someone from our country. But of course, all they do is just take that and just throw it away. And they're not going to do that. So this is kind of like how the ransomware groups are able to hide, because they're going into countries that necessarily don't like the United States and necessarily don't want the United States to succeed. So this is why those ransomware groups happen. Also, the interesting thing is these ransomware groups act as a company, and just like I would even say more like a franchise. So like here you have restaurants, and you have, for example, McDonald's or Subway, right? And you have the corporate, and then from there you have franchisees that are allowed to operate within a scheme and be able to have their restaurants. Well, believe it or not, ransomware is the same thing. Ransomware operates as a franchise. So what you'll have is you'll have someone produce the virus, someone produce the product, and then from there, they're going to sell it. And then they're going to say, follow these rules, and you'll go ahead and we're going to get a cut of whatever you make. So the way they make the money is via cryptocurrency, because let's just say, for example, a company has ransomware and they pay the ransomware, and let's just say it's $1 million. Well, the franchisor is going to get a cut. The franchisee probably is going to make the most of the money, because they're the one who is actually going and actually putting the virus and the malware into these computers. But you have the top that's taking the cut. So it's actually a very organized business. It's actually you'll be surprised of how this works, and how you can even yourself, obviously you shouldn't do it, but how you can easily go and you can actually buy these programs. And then once you put that virus onto the computer, it automatically will do its job. And then from there, when the person pays the ransomware, you get it, the bad guys get it, and then everybody gets their cut. So it's a very organized, very sophisticated system. So, and that's called what is called ransomware as a service. So again, this is really going to hit home, because if it's not fixed by Tuesday, Wednesday, the latest, you're going to start having oil shortages. So to give you an update, right now it is May 10th at 5:26 as we do this live video. And what I found interesting is that there's now a news article that says that the hackers have apologized, promising to ransom less controversial targets in the future. So as I mentioned, You have the franchise and the franchisor. So you have the person that created it and then now allowing other people to use it. Well, they're saying that, hey, yes, this was our program, but our intention was not to cause any issues with any type of government, any type of education, any type of healthcare. All we want to do is get paid. To quote them, it says, "We do not participate in geopolitics, do not need to tie us with a defined government and look for our motives. Our motivation is only to make money." And they're claiming it did not carry out the attack on behalf of a foreign government. So this is really interesting because they're saying, look, yeah, we do what we do, but we don't really try to go after government entities. We're not trying to cause power outages or gas shortages. And they're basically saying that that they're sorry for doing this. This is it's interesting because this article continues to say that they apologize and they promise to ransom less controversial targets in the future. So again, this is just proof of how cybersecurity is such interesting play right now, because people can literally buy programs, install it on computers, and get a cut. So another interesting thing is that this ransomware also stole about 100 gigabytes of data hostage. And 100 gigabytes, if you're a pipeline company, that's a lot of information. This is 100 gigabytes for a company that's like a pipeline. It's not, it's not reviews of employees. It's not, newsletters. We're probably talking about schematics. We're probably talking about routes. It could be so much different data that's part of this 100 gigs. And this is now the scary part, because if they don't pay it, then what's going to happen? They're going to put it in the dark web. And now confidential information, or even if it's employee information, route information, architect information, all of this for the 5,500 miles of pipeline, information about that pipeline, about how it secures it, which way it goes, all of this different information is now in the hands of a cyber attack. And who knows? Let's just say Colonial Pipeline doesn't pay the ransom. And now they say, okay, fine, we're going to go ahead and sell your information to someone, to the highest bidder. And now a terrorist gets it. Or it's possible, because you are dealing with a criminal, where Colonial pays the ransom, but who's to say that the hacker doesn't still sell that information to somebody else, because they can get paid here and they can get paid there. So there's so much different things, which is why it's always suggested that you don't pay the ransomware. But that's a different story. But just so you know, if you pay the ransomware, all you're just doing is you're just enabling it. You're enabling the next hack. So it's all very interesting information. So this is why it is so important as a small business that you should be able to make sure that your information is protected. Because even if you may be saying, you know what, my company is not Colonial Pipelines. If our business went down, yeah, we'll probably have a couple of customers affected, or maybe, we couldn't do business for a couple of days. But what I want you to think about is, think about your circle of clients, right? You provide a service, you provide a product. What information do you have that you don't want others to know? Even if you're a catering company, something as simple as a catering company, you have your client list, you have your recipes, you have your financial information for your employees. So even though these type of hacks happen, and we're looking at a $1 billion company that got hacked, but even take it down to your level, and don't just kind of shrug it off because it's such a big company, whatever. They have insurance, they'll deal with it. They have the FBI helping them. But I want you to think about your company and how your circle of vendors, your circle of employees, your circle of clients, if that information were to get out, no matter what your industry is, someone is going to get impacted, and it's not going to look good for you, and it's also going to disrupt your business. So thank you so much for watching our live. As we get more information about what's happening with this, we'll definitely come back on and give you that information. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So feel free to leave your comments below. And our channel is, if you're watching for the first time, about how to help business owners protect their systems from cyber attacks. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe our page, as we go live about 2 times a week, giving business owners tips on how to protect their businesses and how to make sure that their employees don't fall for cyber attacks. Take care.